Good day everyone, my name is Marigis Nequit, and my report is just the continuation of report of Ms. Lubayay. So, the other dividend policies issues. So, the second one is clientele effect. So, as we indicated earlier, the different groups or clienteles of stockholders prefer different dividends payout policies. So, for example, retired individuals, pension funds, and university endowment funds generally prefer cash income, so they often want the firm to distribute a high percentage of its earnings. Such investors are frequently in lower or even zero tax brackets, so taxes are of little concern. On the other hand, stockholders in their peak earning years might prefer reinvestment because they have less need for current investment income and simply reinvest dividends received after incurring income taxes and brokerage costs. So if a firm retains and reinvests income rather than paying dividends, those stockholders who need current income will be disadvantaged. So the value of their stock might increase, but they will be forced to go to the trouble and expense of selling some of their shares to obtain cash. Also, some institutional investors or trustees for individuals might be legally precluded from selling stock and then spending capital. So, in the other hand, stockholders who are saving rather than spending dividends favor the lower dividend policy. So, the less the firms pay out in dividends, the less these stockholders have to pay in current taxes, and the less trouble and expense they must go through reinvest their after-tax dividends. So, therefore, investors who want current investments income should own shares in high dividend payout firms. So while investors with no need for current investments income should own shares in low dividend payouts firms. Next is establishing the dividend policy in practice. So setting the target payout ratio, the residual dividend model. So when a firm is deciding how much cash to distribute to shareholders, it should consider 2 points. So first is the overriding objective is to maximize shareholder value. And the second one is the firm's cash flows really belong to its shareholders. So management should not retain income unless they can reinvest those earnings at higher rates of return than shareholders can earn themselves. So in the other hand, recall from Chapter 10 that internal equity or retained earnings is less expensive than external equity or new common stock. So if good investments are available, it is better to finance them with retained earnings than with the new stock. So when a dividend policy is established, one size does not fit at all. So some firms produce a large amount of cash but have limited investment opportunities. So this is true for firms in profitable but mature industries where few growth opportunities exist. So such firms typically distribute a large percentage of their cash to shareholders, so thereby attracting investor clienteles who prefer high dividends. Other firms have many good investment opportunities, but currently generate little or no excess cash. So such firms generally distribute few or no cash dividends, but enjoy rising earning and stock prices, thereby attracting investors who prefer capital gains. The next is, as we can see as the table 15.1 suggests, dividends payout and dividend yields for large corporations vary considerably. So the past few decades have seen increasing numbers of young, have growth the firms trading on the stock exchanges. A study by Eugene Fama and Kenneth French showed that the proportion of firms paying dividends has fallen sharply over time. So in 1978 daw, 66.5% of firms on the major stock exchanges paid dividends. By 1999, that proportion had fallen to 20.8%. Fama and French analysis suggested that the part of this decline was due to the exchanging composition of firms on the exchanges. However, their analysis also indicated that all firms, new and old, have become less likely to pay dividends. So as a result of the 2003 tax changes, which lowered the tax rate on dividends. So many companies initiated dividends or increased their payouts. So for example, in 2002, only 113 companies raised or initiated dividends. So however, in 2003, that number doubled to 209. So previously, those companies would have been more inclined to repurchase shares. As of July 2017, 419 companies in the S&P 500 paid dividends. So, industries such as utilities and food pay relatively high dividends, whereas companies in rapidly growing industries such as computer software and biotechnology tend to pay lower dividends. So, average dividends also differ significantly across countries. Higher payout ratios in some countries can be partially explained by lower tax rates or earnings distributed as cash dividends relative to applicable rates on reinvested incomes. So this biases the dividend policy toward the higher payouts. So next is payment procedures. So first is let's define the payout procedures. So companies normally pay dividends quarterly, and if conditions permit, the dividend is increased. So once each year, for example na lang, si Katz Corporation daw nagbayad ng $5 per quarter noong 2018. So an annual rate of $2 in common financial parlance. So we say that na si Katz 2018 regular quarterly dividend was $0.50 and its annual dividend was $2. So in late 2018 daw, Katz board of directors met, reviewed projections for 2019, and decided to keep the 2019 dividend at $2. So the directors announced the $2 rate so stockholders can count on receiving it unless anticipated operating problems arise. So here is the actual payment procedure is as follows. So first is declaration date. So on the declaration date, say the November 5, the directors meet and declare the regular dividends, issuing statements similar to the following. On November 5, 2018, the directors of Katz Corporation met and declared the regular quarterly dividend of 50 cents per share, payables to holders of record at the close of business on December 6. Payment to be made on January 2, 2019. So the second one is holder of record date. So at the close of business on the holder of record date, December 6, the company closes its stock transfer books and makes up a list of shareholders as of that date. So however, if notification is received on the or after December 7, the previous owner will receive the dividend check. So the third is ExDividend Date. Suppose Jen buyer buys 100 shares of stock from John sellers on December 3. Will the company be notified of the transfer in time to list buyer as the new owner and thus pay the dividend to her? So to avoid conflict, the securities industry has set up a convenient under which the right to the dividend remains with the stock until 2 business days prior to the holder of record date. So on the second business day before the date, the right to the dividend no longer goes with the shares. So the date when the right to the dividend leaves the stock is called Yun na nga, the ex-dividend date. So, in this case, the ex-dividend date is the business day prior to December 6 or December 4. For the last one is the payment date. So, this is the company actually mails the checks to the holders of record on January 2, the payment date. So, that's all. Thank you.